Alright, now we have to look at pseudo complex forms. Okay, so here's a pseudo complex form right here. How do we get this? Now, let's look at these two for example. Let's take this ball and just put it right into the geometry. Now, this is what happens. We have a very low res item and a very high res item. And obviously, if you look at this, it looks about the same. But this is actually one piece of geometry. So what I want to do is teach you how to just make the basic divot and bump. Okay, trust me, you can do a lot with this. We'll go into it more as we start modeling, but here these basics need to be covered right off the bat. So if I go into face, for example, let's put a divot at the top and a bump at the bottom. Okay, so joining two shapes together. Alright, so it's a lot with the extrude. I can scale in just a little bit, and what that does is it inserts an edge loop around on a face instead of around a form. Okay, so unlike the insert edge loop tool that inserts it around the form, extrude actually just inserts an edge loop across the face, if you can think about that. And how I know that is if you go into now edit mesh, insert edge loop. Before it used to go all the way around the form like this. Okay, well, if I went to do an undo there and put the insert edge loop here, it now inserts edge loop around that face. Okay, and this is bracing the geometry for change. Okay, alright, so if I take this face now and I do something like this where I extrude one more time and take the scale tool and scale in and then push this face down, what's going to happen, the next level of smooth, when I hit 3 on the keyboard, it's going to make a dent in the geometry. Okay, and I can make that dent as big as I want in this view. And of course, the higher I go with the change, let's say I smooth it one more time, and I could do that going mesh smooth, the more of a hard edge you get around it. Okay, leading to a good topology change. Okay, so let's undo that. And 1 on the keyboard. Now, what about a dent? Not dent, but let's look at a bump at the bottom. Okay, well, it's the same principle. So I extrude, I scale in, I extrude, I scale out. Okay, and now I get a bump at the bottom. So it all started back here when I had this brace square. So this brace square, I can't tell you how many times I use this in actual modeling. It's just a very useful thing because you can get a lot of good topology changes off of it. Okay, it's a simple concept. It gets way more complex than that, but that's about it. A more complex thing would be, let's say, well, what happens if I need the dent to be like somewhere else on the square? Let's say I need a dent here. Well, I had to brace the outside edges of the actual where I needed changed. Extrude in, scale, extrude, push it down. 3 on the keyboard will present a dent only in that one area. Alright, so now that we looked at some changes in how to get two forms mixing in, I want to look at more complex forms now. Like, how do I get very large extrudes coming off, and those extrudes are controlled in some mechanism, some way. Alright, so we'll look at that in the next video.